Hi everyone. I got a request on how to do an annex pot. It's this kind of pot. Sometimes you'll have an orchid that maybe you can't get to repotting right away. Maybe, you procrastinated and the roots are too long and you can't repot it safely. Or maybe you want to make a stress-free division. Or, I don't know, whatever reasons you need an annex pot for. So I've got a big Cattleya maxima that is in a video, and it's in an annex. It's in a pot like this. So once it started getting too big for the pot and growing over the edge, I put a little side piece on it to contain the roots and keep them safe. And then if I want to in the future, I can just cut it at the rhizome here and have this piece of division, and it'll do very little root damage. If you can get it done right, then the roots won't grow back over into the pot, but like mine's starting to crawl out a little bit, so some of the roots go back in here and then in here too. But if I do make a division, most of the roots will be in here, and it will be oh my goodness, I am so brain dead today. It's a really easy way to make stress-free divisions. You don't have to go chopping the whole plant in half and screwing up all the roots. So this would also be a good idea to use in, say you have to repot in the middle of the summer when it's hot. That's a bad time to repot. But if your orchid only grows roots at that time, then this might be a convenient method to use until you can go do a full repotting at a better time. Another idea that I came up with today, I have a mossii that is going out over its pot a little bit. The roots are kind of escaping, and so I don't have a 10-inch pot. I think that's what I would need, or maybe an 8. I don't know. I don't have a bigger pot, so I thought about doing one of these, but I have a lead on this side and I have a lead on this side, and I would have to make 2 different annex pots. So I thought about just using one of these big saucers. These are big clear saucers. Normally they have a hole. Normally they have a hole in the, not a hole in the bottom. They're clear saucers. And so I just cut, I'll show you how I did this. With the bottom, I just put this here and then drew a circle. Actually, I didn't need a circle because these have little ridges in it already. And I just cut that out, and then I had to go and cut a little bit more so that it would fit down as deep as I wanted it to. And I just used scissors. This is flimsy plastic, and you can get these at all kinds of hardware stores. And so I think all I'm going to have to do to make this be effective is on the plant. I'll just go, oops. Oh my goodness, sorry. See this little plastic ridge here? Ignore the part that's chewed up by the dog. This little plastic ridge here is going to block the root space. So I think I'll just trim that off with a Dremel tool. Okay, so on to how you do this. What you want to do is whatever pot size that your normal, if you have the same exact kind of pot that your plant is in, grab the same size pot and then grab another pot that's, however big you think it's going to need to be. If you have a couple of leads that are both starting to root off of the edge and you're just trying to do a specimen size and not divide it, then go ahead and just use a giant pot to hold all that. If you're going to make a division, you might want to do a smaller one. But they do eventually get, my Cattleya maxima puts a lot of growths out all at once, so I made an annex pot, and then about 2 months later I had to make another one that was bigger. And, okay, so what you do, sorry this is all wobbly, you take the bottom of your pot and your other bottom of your pot, and you go in as far as you think you need. Oh wait, no, sorry, I'm doing this backwards. Okay. So you take that pot, you set this one on there, and then you draw around that line. And then you use something like clippers or a cutting wheel on a Dremel tool. Works really, really well. Something like that, and then you cut along that line. And then the tricky part is cutting these two parts at the right angle. But a good way to do that is you take and look at the side of the pot, and you see how these two sides are angled a little bit. So it's not very much. So you're just going to cut on your pot at an angle like this. And then you just kind of have to look at it, hold it up, match it, and get it on there so that it fits. This is not the same way that there's this article where I got this idea from the, I think it's on the AOS website, and it's free to everyone, so I'll put a link to it in the description. But they use a clay pot, which is really, really impressive because I could never manage to do that. But plastic works well. And then with my Maxima, I just drilled some holes in each piece right here and here, and then I twist tied it together. But in the article, the guy makes a wire loop. Somehow he makes a wire loop to go all the way around, and then he twists it to get it to hold these two really tight together. You can do lots of things to connect it, I guess. And one thing I do want to point out, oh yeah, and in the article, the guy doesn't cut out the bottom of a pot. He just cuts in perfectly onto the sides so that it fits. But if you are going to cut out the bottom, because that's the easiest way, just make sure that when you have it up against the... Okay, hang on. When you have it in place, try to make sure that you don't have space between the pot and the two pieces, because roots will grow down through those spaces pretty easily. So try to get that as close fitting as you can. Whole spaces on the side don't matter as much because this isn't perfect, but the bottom ones can be the most troublesome. You could maybe try stuffing some sphagnum moss in between there, but I kind of think they just grow down through there anyways. So, and then the way I have mine, I did put a little bit of media in my first Annex pot. It was really little. It was right up against the side, about like that. It was a small one, and I had put media in there, and now I wish I didn't, because I have a million growths growing into that, and pretty much the whole space is just full of roots, and that plant doesn't really need media anyway because it has such a big root system. And yeah, so I don't know, I guess eventually it'll be fine when it rots out. It'll just wash out the bottom and whatever, but I wish I hadn't put media in there. One thing that if you are going to do this, you can use live Spanish moss in the Annex pot, and roots love that. They'll grow right down into it. If you do that, use a clear piece so that it can get light to it. And oh yeah, growing orchids off of a mount. Okay, this is one thing that can help you grow stuff. Like, I need to get a division of my Eldorado off of the mount so I can give it to someone for safekeeping. And I stuck a pot up under one of the leads and tied it to the mount, and then so the roots can grow down into the pot, and they've done that really well. I kind of sucked at it a little bit, but when I go to divide that plant, it's going to divide just fine, and the roots will be, they're kind of aerial roots because they're just in the pot with Spanish moss, but it'll be fine because if I just keep growing it in that same lack of medium, it'll be fine. Like, the roots are already attached to the pot, so it's stable and everything. Because you cannot bury aerial roots in medium unless you do it really, really, really slowly and gradually, or the roots will rot. Because when roots form, when they grow, they are adapted to the environment that they are growing in. So this is nice when you have specimen-sized plants, because once you start getting into really big pots, the center of the mix just gets, if you have all mixed in there, it's going to get rotten, and this helps keep the roots nice. And then, if you want to make a division, it's really simple because you have so much less root damage when you do decide to cut that plant. And the easiest way, I think... Oh, honey, hang on. My dog wants in here. So, I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say. But, oh yeah, the easiest way to do a division would be to let it grow. Let the roots grow into here for a little while till you have 3 or 4 leads that are rooted into here. And then you cut the rhizome. And then if you want, you can wait for it to root again, to begin rooting again before you cut this. So that the roots that you do lose in here from the division process you get more when the plant roots.